Pearl Harbor is a U.S. naval base located on the island of Oahu, Hawaii. On December 7, 1941, the base was attacked by the Japanese military in a surprise attack. The attack began at 7:48 a.m. local time, when Japanese planes launched a bombing raid on the base, targeting the ships moored there and the airfields. The attack was devastating for the United States, as 8 battleships were sunk or heavily damaged, along with several other ships and more than 200 aircraft. Over 2,400 Americans were killed in the attack, and another 1,200 were injured. The attack brought the United States into World War II, as President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared war on Japan the next day. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a major turning point in the war, as it galvanized the American public and led to a massive mobilization of the country's industrial and military resources. The United States quickly built up its armed forces and began a counteroffensive in the Pacific, eventually leading to the defeat of Japan in 1945. The attack on Pearl Harbor remains one of the most significant and well-known events in American history. The attack on Pearl Harbor was meticulously planned by the Japanese military. Japan's leaders felt that they needed to secure access to the resources of Southeast Asia in order to continue their military expansion, but they knew that the United States would likely intervene if they attempted to do so. In order to prevent this, they decided to launch a surprise attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet in order to cripple its ability to respond. The Japanese launched their attack with a force of over 350 aircraft, which were launched from 6 aircraft carriers. The attack was led by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, who was the commander-in-chief of the Japanese Combined Fleet. The attack caught the United States completely by surprise, as the U.S. military had not expected an attack on Hawaii and had not taken any significant measures to prepare for one. The attack on Pearl Harbor had a profound impact on the United States and the world. It led to the deaths of thousands of Americans and the destruction of much of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. It also led to the United States entering World War II, which had a profound impact on the course of the war and ultimately led to the defeat of the Axis powers. The aftermath of the attack saw the country rallied and united, leading to a massive mobilization of resources to the war effort. The U.S. quickly began building up its military and industrial capacity, and by the end of the war, it had become the world's dominant military and economic power. In addition to the immediate military and human toll, the attack on Pearl Harbor had a major impact on American society and politics. It led to a rapid change in public opinion, with many Americans who had previously been isolationist or opposed to entering the war now supporting the war effort. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's famous speech to Congress the day after the attack, in which he declared that December 7, 1941, would be a date which will live in infamy, helped to rally the country behind the war effort. The attack also led to the internment of Japanese Americans, as the government and some Americans feared that they might be loyal to Japan. Over 120,000 Japanese Americans were forcibly removed from their homes and interned in camps for the duration of the war. This policy was later determined to be unjust and a violation of the civil rights of Japanese Americans. The attack on Pearl Harbor also had a significant impact on the U.S. military. It revealed significant weaknesses in the U.S. military's readiness and intelligence capabilities, leading to significant reforms in both areas. It also led to a shift in U.S. strategy, as the U.S. focused on defeating Germany first, before turning its attention to Japan. In terms of international relations, the attack on Pearl Harbor led to the United States joining World War II and solidified the alliance between the U.S., Great Britain and Soviet Union, which was the foundation of the defeat of the Axis powers. Pearl Harbor remains an important symbol in American history and is now a National Historic Landmark and home to the USS Arizona Memorial, which honors the men who died on the battleship USS Arizona during the attack. It is also one of the most visited tourist attractions in Hawaii, drawing millions of visitors each year. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States immediately began taking steps to respond to the attack and mobilize for war. Some of the actions taken in the aftermath of the attack included: declaring war on Japan. President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered his famous Day of Infamy speech to Congress on December 8, 1941, declaring war on Japan. Mobilizing the military. The United States quickly began mobilizing its military in response to the attack. This included calling up reserve troops, increasing production of weapons and equipment, and training new recruits. Internment of Japanese Americans. The U.S. government, fearing that Japanese Americans might be loyal to Japan, interned over 120,000 Japanese Americans in camps for the duration of the war. Reforms in military readiness and intelligence. The attack revealed significant weaknesses in the U.S. military's readiness and intelligence capabilities, leading to significant reforms in both areas. Shift in military strategy. The attack led to a shift in U.S. military strategy, as the U.S. focused on defeating Germany first, before turning its attention to Japan. Counteroffensive in the Pacific. The U.S. began a counteroffensive in the Pacific, eventually leading to the defeat of Japan in 1945. Reparations. After the war, Japan paid reparations to the United States and other countries for the damage caused by the attack, and also signed a peace treaty with the United States. Memorials and commemorations. Pearl Harbor remains an important symbol in American history and is now a National Historic Landmark and home to the USS Arizona Memorial, which honors the men who died on the battleship USS Arizona during the attack. It is also one of the most visited tourist attractions in Hawaii, drawing millions of visitors each year. The final result of the attack on Pearl Harbor was the United States entering World War II and the eventual defeat of the Axis powers, Japan, Germany, and Italy. The attack resulted in significant losses for the United States in terms of lives, ships and aircrafts, but also led to a massive mobilization of resources and united the country behind the war effort. The U.S. was able to recover quickly and was able to launch counteroffensives and ultimately achieved victory in the Pacific and Europe. The attack also led to significant changes in military strategy, readiness, intelligence and regulations such as internment of Japanese Americans, which were later determined to be unjust. The attack on Pearl Harbor remains one of the most significant and well-known events in American history and is often remembered as the day that will live in infamy.